If you see tutorials that promise you becoming a pro in just half an hour, don't take that too literally. Is it still worth learning 3D given the rapid development of AI? So my answer to that is hello everyone, I'm Nico, I'm a freelance 3D artist, and today I'm going to answer even more questions from you around the big topic of 3D. But as always, the disclaimer first, that I don't say that I'm an expert in all of the things around 3D. I mostly talk about my own personal experiences. So if you see that I said something wrong, then please correct me in the comments below so we can all learn from that. So very interesting and probably a little bit controversial question. Would love to hear your opinions on that. But is it still worth learning 3D given the rapid development of AI? So my answer to that is yes, it is still worth doing 3D. But first of all, my question to you would be, why do you want to do 3D? If you want to do it just for yourself, then the answer is hell yes. Because then you do it just for fun, right? You like doing it. You like the process, you like the results, you like having created something with your own hands, which is really cool. That's one of the reasons why I do what I do. If you just do it for the sake of creating 3D stuff, then yes, I would definitely say keep going. But if you mean that 3D will be replaced by AI anytime soon, then the answer is a little bit more complicated, but I would still say yes, because there are still some industries that rely on actual 3D objects and polygons, which is mainly video games, for example. So that kind of interactivity is still very difficult for AI to emulate. And there is more to video games than just a nice visual that looks like a video game. There's logic, there's code, there is a lot of interconnected systems that need to work together. A video game is basically like a big Rube Goldberg machine where every piece needs to work together perfectly so that the game actually works. And with AI currently is just simulating the visuals, but not the core mechanics of video games. And to have full interactivity, you still need proper 3D worlds. So I would say if you're interested in 3D for a longer time, then video games might be a good destination. But even if AI will be able to create anything in games and film, and I believe that this will actually happen, I still think that both approaches will coexist in parallel and people will get to decide which one to watch or to consume. Because from my experience, I think that context still matters and that people like to experience things made by other people. AI will definitely change the process and even enhance it, but I still think that humans will be needed to give meaning to the thing that you're consuming. So just keep an eye on it and we'll be fine for now. Okay, the next questions are also similar, so I will answer them in one go. How to get clients in the 3D world? Another one is, how do I crack a job I am in the need of, but I don't know where to apply? I do know modeling, texturing, UV and animations in Blender and Substance Painter, which is, I think, a good basis. And another similar question is, so I'm an artist as well, using Blender for almost a decade now, which is already a lot. Still in university though, so probably learned very early on. Wondering how to get a break into the industry. I'm looking for either gaming or animated media. Also, what should I keep in mind while making a professional art portfolio? So first of all, how to get clients in the 3D world. The term 3D world is actually very big and very vague, so depends on what you want to do in the end. You can either work in video games, you can work in VFX, you can work in everything. Everything is basically 3D, so product visualizations, visualizing processes for entertainment or education. And I think if you want to go, for example, in advertising, the best way to apply is by showing the potential client what you can do. So recreate their product, their thing that they are producing, and show them what you could do with that. I think that's very impressive because people like to see their own thing in a new light, in an interesting way maybe. So I would just show them, here, this is what you would get. And they immediately see what they would get from you, which is also very flattering for them. So they will tend to at least contact you maybe. But I'll also say for the others, a good demo reel or show reel is almost essential, I would say. Some people will say also to having like their own portfolio website, which is kind of true, but I think a show reel is a little bit better because it saves a lot of time for companies or potential clients. The thing is that sometimes they get a lot of applications and it takes a long time to go to a website, scroll through it, and look for the thing that is most interesting to them. A showreel is mostly just 1 minute. They can click on a link, it immediately starts, they are presented with the information that they need, it's over in a minute, and they have everything they need to make a good decision, mostly. If the showreel is good, obviously. Even if you don't use animations, just like a slideshow of your products is also very, very important. And I would keep a showreel a maximum 1 minute, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. And one important thing is also just put in your best work in that showreel. Leave out all the stuff that you did maybe in the beginning while learning. A good client or a good person that is deciding will see that immediately, and they will think like, okay, so what's your current status? Show only the best things, and this way your showreel will be more impressive, I would say. Also, to each either animation or to each image, write maybe down what you did exactly, because sometimes you were part of a team and you maybe did only modeling or only texturing or only one task of a bigger one, so that they don't think that you did everything. And also what's very helpful is write in the beginning and at the end your contact. So email address or your social media or your name, obviously, so that they don't have to look for it in the video. They just have it in the beginning and at the end. So it's easier for them to find you and find your contact details. The easier you can do it for a potential client, the better. One thing also is if you want to apply for a certain industry, so for example, VFX or gaming, they are currently struggling a little bit. A lot of layoffs in gaming and also VFX. Whole VFX studios were closed recently. So maybe I would advise to not look for the biggest companies, but rather smaller, like mid-tier companies or even indie studios. So there are the chances that you can get maybe better work and maybe also more personal work, that your work will matter more, instead that you go into a big studio and you're just a little cog in the whole machinery. Also, one major thing that I find is very important is maintaining a good social media presence. And by that, I don't mean only having your best work shown in your social media presence, but also having good connections with other artists. And by that, I mean, for example, commenting on other artists' work, maybe asking questions. This will sometimes lead to some kind of relationships or friendships, which is really cool. And in the end, from these contacts, there can rise opportunities, which actually happened to me a few times already. But other than that, yes, stay in contact with other people. And maybe when they need someone for support for the next project, or they heard about something, maybe they think of you. One of the biggest things is obviously be kind, be nice to work with, be professional, obviously. And with that, more opportunities will come up. And that's also one way. So definitely try to interact with people online. As a game developer for VR, we use Blender for our assets, which we implement in Unity, which is really cool. Further, I looked for texturing at Armor Paint, but this seems not right. Marmor Toolbag or Substance is too expensive. What is the right way to produce good-looking assets for Unity without expensive third-party software? I don't use Blender for working with Unity, so I'm not sure how Unity works, but I assume it works similarly as other engines, like Unreal maybe. So the texturing process is probably very similar. But for this topic, I have actually a great video that I can recommend, which is this one here. It's by Martin Kleckner and CG Boost, and here he actually explains many different alternatives to Substance Painter with their pros and cons. So maybe this will help you out and you can find the best solution for your workflow. What I like to do in terms of texturing is I love working with procedural textures that also adapt from object to object. And you can create procedural edgeware and like leather kind of structures. So depending on what you need, you can get actually pretty far with Blender's procedural texturing system. So this one is actually very interesting. Is there any reliable source of the working process in big studios? I've been working in Blender for 1.5 years right now, and I'm feeling a little tiredness from YouTube tutorials with terms, no one will see that, we're not making AAA here, let's not UV unwrap, to not waste our time. Of course, it's obvious that some techniques and tips are like gold, and not all studios are ready to share them for free. But I constantly stumble upon projects on ArtStation and ask myself, how is that so good? I want to see the process. Even in my current project, I'm suffering with questions, how would big boys of the industry do this? Maybe there is some blogs, websites, literature, anything. And good luck with the new video. Well, first of all, thank you. So this is a little layered question, but it seems to me that you see big studio productions as the same thing as having a certain level of quality. But these are actually two different things. So you can achieve actually high quality without working in a big studio. And by the way, there isn't just this one process that all big studios use. Each studio has their own individual pipeline with special tools, their own proprietary tools, and their own pipeline like processes. So there isn't really like one answer like this is how the studios do it. So the big secret for individuals is, I'm sorry to say that again, practice, repetition, and time. Usually tutorials give us this illusion that we are actually learning and that you can actually learn everything instantly. You just watch the video and suddenly you can do it. But that's not the case. You need to repeat it over and over again until you can actually do it without any guidance. And this is what it is with the very good assets or projects that you see on ArtStation that look so good. People have been just practicing a lot. And there is not one specific process for that. Everyone uses different kinds of methods to reach the same goal. So that's actually a good thing, that there is not one way to achieve something. There are many ways. It just comes down to what is the best way for you to achieve it. If you can do it in your own way and if it works and looks good, then you achieved your goal and you don't need to follow a different path or pipeline or process from someone else. But I think why you see big studio creations as this professional goal, and you may think that you can't really achieve that, is that they have a big advantage. And this is manpower, time, and especially money. So you don't really see how long and how many people it took to create something great. Sometimes they can have 1 or 2 people working just on one character for months, and then you see the end result and you think, okay, it needs to have this special sauce, this special ingredient that only they have. But no, they just have the resources for that. So in the end, if you see tutorials that promise you becoming a pro in just half an hour, don't take that too literally. They will guide you in a certain direction. They will help you cut corners. But in the end, it's still up to you to put in the time and effort to get better at a certain thing. Nico, I feel like I add too many objects to my one model. How do you decide if you're going to keep topologizing on one object versus adding a new one that is more of a shape already? Using a ship or robot would be the best reference for myself personally. Maybe second question would be, when do I create the inside of a vehicle versus just the exterior? Yeah, very good questions. I think many, especially beginners, are unsure whether to just create a separate object for maybe adding some details to an already existing object. So for me, the deciding factor is, when does it become too difficult to create something out of just one object? If it's too finicky, if the topology gets worse and worse, I just decide to create a new object and add it to the first one, because there is rarely an advantage to having everything just being one object. One case is video games, for example. In video games, efficiency is key, keeping something as low poly as possible to save resources. So there, I would definitely try to do everything as much as you can, just from as few objects as possible. But overall, I would just look at the context. For example, if you create an arm of a robot and there are many details, think of all the details and would they be also separate objects in the real world? If you want to add some bolts or screws, I would definitely create separate objects for that. If there are some cables or some additional clamps, or if there are additional parts that are somehow mounted on top of that part. If you want to save render times, then maybe try to work a little bit more efficiently. So not adding too many vertices and too much geometry. But overall, if you just add a few objects here and there, this won't be very noticeable. Usually Blender is very good with handling a lot of geometry. Textures are rather the thing that increases render times. Blender can handle a lot of geometry actually pretty well. So in the end, my answer is do what feels right and don't overthink it. And your second question was whether to model the interior of a car or just the exterior. Well, that depends. That depends on what you want to do with the car. So for example, if you want to create a wide shot from far away of the car driving on the road, then you probably don't need the interior. So maybe even just use black glass or not see-through glass. Then you can hide the complete interior and all will be good. If you're creating like a turntable where we get a little bit closer, then maybe use real glass, but just model then the steering wheel and everything that is visible through the glass. So you don't need the pedals, for example, or maybe the shifting gear or everything that is at the bottom. You won't need that. But if you create like some nice camera shots flying through the car, then you will need more of that. So in the end, whatever the camera sees, you need to model. Everything that the camera doesn't see, just don't model it. What's a project that you would like to do the most? Well, so I think the most would be my own series, the Maverick series. I love working on it. I love having all the freedom and all the creativity to put into that series. I have so many cool ideas and I can't wait to see each episode be done. I have so many cool images or sequences in my head that I want to put on the screen. So I think that's the thing that I want to work on most currently. But if for any reason Blur Studios, the guys who do Love, Death and Robots and Secret Level, if they would knock on my door, I would probably leave everything and just work for them. Maybe if it's just for support, maybe just creating some background asset, just one asset, that would already be awesome. So that would be cool. And also the obvious answer would be working on a full feature Mega Man film. That would obviously be the dream come true for me. And just being involved in something official Mega Man, even if it's a game or it's TV series or film, that would be already really cool. And if I could even bring in my art style and maybe the concept with me, then hell yes. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm actually not super eager to work in Hollywood, work on Marvel movies or on Star Wars, maybe Star Wars, I'm not sure. Other than that, independent short films, that's my passion, and that's what I want to do the whole day, every day. Is there any viable way to learn sculpting in a structured, linear and optimized way? Most sources I see online basically tell you to do random sculpts and give off a few generic tips per sculpt category. It frustrated me that there is nothing in sculpting like draw a box. So when it comes to sculpting, I'm probably not the best to ask because I don't sculpt that often. Sometimes I do, but I'm not an expert in sculpting. But I found this video here that is actually pretty good. So Grant Abbott is a great teacher. He was actually the one that I learned Blender from his beginner course because I found it really cool and it helped me a lot. So he's great in teaching, and I'm very surprised that you didn't find any great sources because on YouTube there are many great videos that help you with sculpting. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that video and then maybe continuing from that video to other similar videos. Okay, thanks a lot for all those interesting questions. If you have even more, then please leave them in the comments below the video and I will make sure to answer them in some future videos. And as always, if you'd like to support the channel and the production of my own short film series Mavericks, then please consider joining my Patreon. That would really help me out a lot. And as always, I gotta do the YouTube thing, so please like, share and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anything that I upload. And I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, take care and see you in the next one. Bye bye.